all that we can be, and not as defined by the secular world system, but by God. So there's this battle going on, how to define prosperity, how to define success. When I say something like, the lower your cost of living, the higher your standard of living, I know a lot of people, because of our training, immediately they say, well, how can I debate that? And so they come up with some pretty good ideas, and I would agree. You say, well, no, the more money you spend, the higher your standard of living, right? That's what they would argue. But now, what are we defining as a standard of living? What are those qualities exactly? Name names. Let's make a list of what the qualities are. And are we talking on a secular level, or are we talking as defined from above, on an eternal level, on a higher level, okay, on a metaphorical level in that sense? And that's what I'm saying here, because we bandy this word freedom about all the time. I mean, are we talking about, well, something didn't cost you anything and that it was free? So, wow, I'm free from the burden of having to pay the tax or pay the price for that thing. Okay, you're free in that sense, right? It was free. So you are free in that sense. You're not in jail, so you're not confined by four walls, right? So in that sense, you're free to the open air of the planet and to do what you want at any given time. You're free in that sense. We have rights, entitlements, privileges, whatever you want to call it, to be free, to have free speech, for example, freedom of religion. So this makes us free. We know that we're free. We can freely say what's on our mind, and it's a right. It's in our Constitution. It's a God-given right, because God is the only one that supersedes the Constitution. It's not a religious thing. It's a cosmic thing. It's a divinity thing. It's an acknowledgement that we are created beings. Big deal. I mean, get over it, atheists. I mean, look, I understand why people can be atheists. Okay, I myself would think God was a real a-hole if I didn't know the Bible. Okay, if I didn't know about the original sin and what went wrong, I'd think God was an a-hole. I'd say, oh my God, it is so hot today. I got to work out in the sun. And I got this idiot evangelist over here telling me that God loves me and that God is all powerful. Yes, I get it, atheists. I get it. I really do. I get it. And this is why it's so critical for all those that profess to be Christians and have Bible knowledge and all this. Explain these fundamental things to people, because people's souls are at risk here. I mean, basically, that's it. I mean, we have an opportunity to be sons of God, sons and daughters, humanity, mankind of God. And this is the highest calling. This is the highest title anybody can have. So, success and prosperity is a whole different animal when we're talking about from a divine point of view, and what our obligation is to do that, and to win friends is basically what we're doing. To be God's friend, you're out there making friends for him, helping people to understand what went wrong. That don't blame God. Don't blame God for the miserable biting insects. Don't blame God for the heat. Don't blame God for the bitter cold. Don't blame God for the natural disasters. Nothing bad was ever what God intended for humanity. Remember, his intentions were that we would live forever. And then some people will immediately think to themselves, hogwash, because they've been trained to think hogwash. Why would they say hogwash? Because we would overpopulate. Immediately, their scientific mind, okay, which is been trained to stop at a certain point. Say, you believe this much. Now, don't go beyond what the consensus of the scientific community is. So you just accept this idea that we would overpopulate, never considering the fact that you've believed so far that you're a created being, that this God, this all-powerful God created you. Now, this God is in charge of your life force, the fertility of the species. So why can't God, just as easily as he gave fertility, life force, to humanity, pull it if the earth was populated to satisfaction? Because you're going to live forever. Do you understand the whole idea behind this? What I'm trying to convey here is that I understand why people believe the way they do, and why I too would believe the way that so many people do if I didn't step outside, way, way, way outside the box, and have a look at this thing and say, and get some learning too. I mean, if something's bugging you, get to the bottom of it. That's all I did. When it came to economic matters, I got to the bottom of it. And I didn't like it. I didn't want to do it. I went through it. I went through real estate economics. I know what this whole thing is based on. It's all fraud. The entire economy is fraudulent. It's all just a pyramid scheme, a Ponzi scheme. It can't work. It won't work. It was never intended to work. It was just intended to rob the public, to create this wealth and income disparity, to create poverty. Okay, this is what the grand puppeteers at the very top of the economic pyramid of this world, this is what they want, this satanic spirit. This is where it resides with these people that are willing to commit mass murder, genocidal murder of the innocents in order to keep their, that's how much they love what they've got. They love this power. They're power drunken. They're money drunken. They're Satan drunken. I mean, this is it. They're spirit of this world drunk. And these are the people that are running the show. And it is traumatic. But it doesn't help to ignore it and to bury your head in the sand and it prescribe to an ignorance is bliss philosophy. That's not going to help anyone. And other people's blood's going to be all over your hand. If you know right from wrong and you don't do right, okay, when you have knowledge, you've got power and you have an obligation, therefore, to share it, to give it to others because you're saving lives. Remember, they're going to go to hell, maybe, without what you have to say. There's great power in the individual. Just think you could sway an entire election of the most powerful country in the world, in America, with just your opinion, with your vote. You could have been the straw that broke the camel's back either way. Your vote, your opinion is powerful. That's what I'm trying to convey to people. Believe it. You are made in the image and likeness of God. And yes, you should also be very humble and contrite, have a lot of humility, and be self-debasing, abasing, whatever the term is, and so that we can reach everybody. We've got to reach people that have no self-esteem, that just have believed all the BS, that they are just a warm body, the earth would be better off without them. That's where their heads are, that's what they've been trained to believe. And it just makes me nuts that these people have done this. And I've got to do something. I mean, I can't live with myself if I don't make these videos. If I don't do this, I can't live with myself. I can't. I've got to do something. I've got to do something. I cannot not do anything. I cannot. And that's why I do what I do. And I'll continue doing what I do as long as I have a breath and a couple of bucks to buy tapes for my video camera, whatever, the wherewithal. Okay, but this is super important, folks, and you are important. We are made the image and likeness of God, created just a little lower than the angels. We've got huge shoes to fill. Highest self-esteem, but very low ego, very low vanity, conceit, narcissism, and all that crap. I mean, it's to no avail. It's to no profit. So, I mean, let's just be honest. There is one famous one, the Almighty Creator God. I mean, we are all equally, specially beloved by this God. And this is what we've got to get across to people. And we've got to help people understand. We've got to help atheists to understand these truths. But it's super important. I mean, you know, on this whole depression issue, you see what I believe. I mean, there's just so many issues that we're contending with. And, you know, we're very dynamic creatures. We know everything overnight now. With the computer age, internet age, we know what's going on with everybody around the world immediately. It's never been like this before in history. We're under a lot of duress, and this is right when the evildoers are pushing the envelope. They've got momentum. They've got inertia. They want to keep this ball rolling, keep kicking that can down the road, keep on just stealing the wealth of our nation right out from under our nose. Most people don't even understand how they're doing it. They're doing it with the cost of living inflation. And anybody that says a rising cost of living is a good thing, okay, is no different from somebody, okay, telling you that it's good that your taxes keep going up. No different, okay? No. The only time you should have cost of living inflation, according to the law of supply and demand, this is capitalism. This is free market capitalism I'm talking about here. The only time is during a disruption in the supply chain. Okay, nobody will argue these economic facts with me because I know what the hell I'm talking about. I know how to define progress. Nobody else out there on the internet is talking about these things as concisely and clearly as I am. I want people to understand the why and wherefore. People say, okay, back it up. Okay, I'm going to back it up. It's called progress because this is what a civilized society does. A civilization, okay, if you dissect the term. And progress means we, as this civilized society, easier and easier methods to produce, to supply, to create, to manufacture all the things we not only absolutely need, food, housing, water, energy, but the things we want, knickknacks, gimmicks, luxury on, whatever, let your mind soar, okay, with ideas for how we, all the things we might want, okay, in our profligate nature, which is just normal for human beings, basically. Oh, I want a new sailboat. I want a helicopter. I want a plane. I want a mansion over here and one over here, and on and on. I mean, so, that's the nature of the beast. So we want these things. But you see, what's unnatural is inflation, okay? That's a lie from the pit of hell. And if you don't get that through your head, that it's just like somebody if I was trying to tell you anything else, it'd be like me being for the tax collector and saying, hey, what's wrong with the IRS? I mean, the more the merrier. They should take more and more. And yeah, hey, that guy, yeah, he's still got it. He was able to save a few bucks, so we got to take that. He's not contributing enough to his Social Security or whatever. Remember, it's always the people at the bottom that get hurt worse. Okay, taxation is, if the poor have to pay it, it's a tax on the poor. Okay, so you can complain if you're lower middle class, upper middle class, if you consider yourself rich, uber rich, or uber rich. Okay, whatever classification class you put yourself in. Okay, remember, it's always hurting the guy at the very bottom the most. These are the guys at the base of the pyramid. So you're at least above them when it comes to who that pyramid's going to crush when it comes down. Okay, another one bites the dust, right? That's what happens here. And now who's being crushed by the weight of this evil establishment, this evil pyramid of puppetry, okay? And all these evil money masters of misery that are running the show, that embrace the spirit of Satan out there. They're crushing those at the very bottom. So this is serious, serious stuff. So this is why your cost of living should go down, not up. And if that happened, you wouldn't need cost of living adjustments. You wouldn't need raises. Naturally, currency would go up in worth. And you'd be set free. Freedom is the value, is the criteria, is the quality that I'm talking about when I say the lower your cost of living, the higher your standard of living. If you have a sense of less burden, if you have less actual burden, okay, then you have more freedom, okay, by default. So that's it. You are more free. Does it mean you're going to feel free? No, it doesn't. None of us feel free. What did Jesus say about these things? Always back to the Bible. Whenever there's any question, if there's any debate, what did he say? He said the rich fear they will lose and the poor fear they will never have, okay? And it's basically that very same thing today. So, I mean, what are we getting at here? We're getting at a very serious, sticky situation where we've got to give a damn about other people. We say it's not my problem. Hey, albeit it's not your problem. But it is your problem in the sense that you're not going to escape. You can run. Okay, you can try to run. You could try to manipulate your beliefs. That's called rationalization. And you could say, well, I can separate myself from these people because I'm not experienced. My life is good. I'm well healed. And this is what this guest they had on, Alex Jones, talking about this depression, was talking about. He said, the idea is to become successful, but without ever defining it. And without ever making the distinction between what definition is that? Is that the secular definition or is that the divine definition of success? Okay, it's very imperative that people understand what I'm talking about here because there is a big distinction. And if you don't get it, your paradigm is askew. You've got to let the overriding opinion maker be none other than the Creator God Almighty. That's your owner. That's all of our owner. That's the one that will decide not only what happens to our body, but what happens to our soul, where we go from here, what we're found worthy of, deserving of. Okay, that's where we're going to go. And he's not stupid. Okay, and if we have been willfully ignorant, this is a big problem. This willful ignorance is a big problem in our society today because it's so traumatic to know the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And I'm not sitting here, acting like it's not. But what I'm trying to convince people of is that it's far better to jump in the fray, jump in the pool of humanity now than to face the wrath later of your conscience. Because it's going to be your own conscience glaring back at you when you have to answer to your Creator. Even if you said, well, I thought that was all bull and I wasn't going to have to answer to my Creator. But it turned out you were still meeting yourself.